Hi, and welcome to the 2020 Economic Recession and Preparation channel. I'm your host, Tony. Thank you for joining me. Please be sure to hit this subscribe button and tell your friends and neighbors about it, as we're here to provide you with 100% unadulterated truth on financial news in the United States and worldwide. Today, ladies and gentlemen, I want to get into something very serious. First of all, we're going to talk about the Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell and Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin's meeting on the White House Hill that took place a couple of days ago. And we're also going to talk about the bank scandal, how U.S. banks handle trillions of dollars in suspicious transactions. And so first of all, I want to talk about the Powells Pledge. CNBC and MSNBC.com is reporting that Fed Chairman Jerome Powell said the central bank, quote, is committed to helping the economy for as long as it takes. That's the remarks that he delivered to the House Committee Chairman Maxine Walters and others who were on the panel. He noted that continued improvement in conditions, though he said the path ahead continues to be highly uncertain. He said that he'll pledge continued support in the manners that deemed appropriate for this economy. As you know, the Federal Reserve has cut short-term interest rates to zero and has launched 13 lending and liquidity programs that have helped to ease the market stresses and provide credit to businesses. In spite of all of that, as you know, in spite of all the stimulus and millions of dollars and trillions of dollars injected into this economy, the economy and the stock market is still struggling with volatility every day. It lost over 500 points this week so far. It's down for the fourth straight day, the Dow Jones, the S&P, and the NASDAQ, and has given up most of the gains that we earlier saw in August, the record gains. In addition, the chairman, Jerome Powell, said that he's committed to keeping inflation at 2% until it rises above 2% when they continue this policy through next year and through 2023. They will leave rates unchanged. So he has said that economic activity has picked up since the negative 32% GDP quarter. In this third quarter, he's saying that economic activity has picked up. Yet, we are still seeing on Main Street, small and medium-sized businesses, over 60% now are closed permanently due to the sickness pandemic and also due to a cash flow problem. They don't have the cash liquidity. So the Main Street lending program that was geared towards small and medium-sized businesses has just $2 billion or so committed has come through it out of the potential $600 billion. And most of that $2 billion went to only 10% of the biggest small businesses. Now, that's a facility. The Main Street Lending Facility is a facility in which the Federal Reserve Bank can purchase corporate bonds on the primary market that hasn't been used at all. Still, Powell said the facilities overall have unleashed about half of their potential funding and will be ready should the market stresses reemerge. He said, quote, our economy will recover fully from this difficult period. Quote, we remain committed to using our full range of tools to support the economy for as long as needed. So basically, he says we're going to do unlimited quantitative easing, unlimited money printing. The only two options that we have at this point, ladies and gentlemen, is to print more money and keep the rates at zero. That is the tools in the toolbox. Because if they raise rates, that means this whole house of cards is coming down. The economy is going down to absolutely zero. A depression starts tomorrow. Thank God they haven't done that yet, because that gives us more time to prep and to prepare our family, our friends, and neighbors. So we're blessed in that sense. That's the good news, is that they're able to keep this thing propped up at least, until next year, the summertime next year, when things are really going to get bad. And here's the reason why. Another viewer mentioned that greed is the number one reason why this economy is going down. And I would have to agree. There's been a lot of stealing and greed. And the U.S. banks, according to CBSNews.com, this just came out last week, U.S. banks handled trillions of dollars in suspicious transactions. A congressional investigation into the 2016 U.S. presidential election has unearthed evidence that major banks processed $2 trillion in transactions despite suspecting they were connected to, quote, illegal activity. Well, this is no surprise. If you remember last year, guys, Wells Fargo Bank created over 2 million fictitious fake accounts in people's names that absolutely destroyed some of the middle class and poor class's credit. And also they had to pay a fine, which was nothing, but they made so much money off these fake credit card accounts and fake HELOC accounts and so many things. And so now this report is coming out saying that these banks are in trouble. So that's why I tell you guys to keep money in the bank, but only enough to pay your bills. Don't keep everything in there, because when something like this happens, or when they banks say, look, you can only withdraw $200 a day or a week, or $500 a week, they put limits on it, which they can do. When there's a bail-in, which will happen when we go into this collapse and depression, you'll have no access to your actual cash funds. And even though people say, oh, cash is going to be hyperinflated away, yes, that's true, but that's a slow process. It's not going to be like in Weimar, Germany, or in Venezuela, because the U.S., you have to remember, is still the largest quote-unquote economy in the world in terms of volume of dollars it has circulating out there. Okay, now we know who the real superpower is and who has most of the stuff, China. But for the meantime, the United States dollar is still the reserve currency, and so because of which, try to keep some dollars on hand, because these banks, these stress tests, that's another thing that Fed Chairman Jerome Powell mentioned today in the chairman meeting on the White House. He said that the bank stress tests have been passing the stress test, quote, so far. So that means that he expects a lot of these small and medium-sized banks to fail. And as a matter of fact, some of these bigger banks like Bank of America and Chase and Citibank may be closing some of their branches in connection with the job losses that we're seeing now. As a matter of fact, because that is also a possibility. So bank stocks are struggling. And the banks, as you know, in the United States are required to monitor their customers' transactions for evidence of possible misdeeds and all of that. And they're supposed to notify the Treasury Department's Financial Crimes Enforcement Network, to fight money laundering and all of that. But that has not happened, because the top 1%, the rich folks, they do what they want with their money. They have their money in different countries. It's not just in the United States or in Europe. It's in different other countries that are tax sheltered and protected, etc. We can get into that later. But the bottom line is that Deutsche Bank was in a scandal, implicated in the scandal, and a lot of other banks were implicated in this scandal. The number of questionable transactions totaled 50 million in payments processed over a decade, that's 10 years, by J.P. Morgan for Mr. Trump's president's former campaign manager, Paul Manafort. That's right. So J.P. Morgan also flagged regulators about transactions it processed for J.H. Lowe, the fugitive financier accused of stealing billions from Malaysia's investment development fund. So as we head deeper and deeper into this collapse, the Federal Reserve Bank and the Treasury Chairman of the United States are not there to help us. They're there to harm us, because they're going to be printing up more money and devaluing not only our currency, but lowering our standard of living as Americans, all walks of life. And no matter what geographic region you're in, the West, the South, the Midwest, the Northeast, you are going to be affected by this, because there's only so much that can be printed. What goes up must come down. And this is what Chairman Jerome Powell is telling you in so many words. He is going to keep pumping it and to save this ship. But the music is still going to be playing on the Titanic. But guess what? It's still sinking. And so that's all he can do. He's trying to keep everybody calm, so there will not be a run on the banks, number one. And there will not be a run on in the streets with these people. As you can know, crime is going up tremendously. And you think the unrest is bad now, just wait until there's no more money flowing in the streets in terms of credit, and wait until there's no more food in the streets, meaning that we still have the supply shock going on as a result of this pandemic. So watch out for that coming up in this winter. As the winter gets colder, heating bills go up, food things start getting back to normal. And also watch out for this housing thing. That's going to be absolutely crucial, because if more people, if we lose 800,000 more jobs this Thursday and next Thursday, that will put us over 28 weeks, almost 30 weeks of losing close to 1 million jobs or more. And so that's going to be absolutely devastating. And of course, all of this is planned. This is not an accident that this is happening, ladies and gentlemen. But still, we have to use the information as best we can to prepare. So get prepared now. Continue to de-invest yourself in the system. Get what you can out the banks that, without pay your bills, but get what you can out the banks to keep some at the house and at other protected locations which you can access, because you're going to need it when supply shortages come and when other things come, because they're going to put caps. That's the next thing that's coming next year. When we go into this collapse, they're going to put caps and limits on our withdrawals and everything else. And so be on the lookout for that, my friends. Be blessed, and I'll talk to you soon.